Hey everyone, welcome back to the Building Bigger Lives podcast. I'm Michael Regan, along with my fabulous co-host, as always, Kathryn Peterson. And again, we have a guest on today's episode. You've probably clicked the link because you already saw Craig Davis will be here. But let me tell you a little bit about my friend Craig, who is currently an active coach in the housing industry, but has a really interesting background that I hope we get to dive into because it allows him to do some things differently than some of us who are also coaching in that space. And he also has some really great takes on the current market for both producers and for leaders that I want to dig into, as well as some personal anecdotes that I'm sure we'll cover as well. But enough with my setup. Craig, welcome to today's podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for inviting me. It's great to be here. It's good to see you guys. You guys are looking
Yeah.
good.
We feel good, Craig, and
Good.
it sounds like we will also. I'll get to be together at a conference very soon, so I look forward to some debriefing. We'll get to do in person,
Yeah.
and who knows if this goes well, maybe we'll swing it back and do another recording on the other side of it.
I'm
Um,
always good for the series, and yeah, I call it deep dive leadership. So we'll have some deep dive leadership when I see you guys.
Fair enough. So, Kathryn, I know you and I have known Craig for a little while, and I know we've had an opportunity to run into him at various industry events. And I think that's one of the things I really enjoy when we go to these is the relationships we build and the continuity of some of that. But as I look at your history, Craig, let's just bring the audience up to speed with the three of us. You know, you've spent more than a couple of decades now in the crazy world that I call the housing industry. You've had different roles throughout that time. We don't need to walk through your whole resume, but I'd love to hear where your passion for coaching maybe first showed up and then how that played out in something you like to call fractional leadership. So give us a little bit of a runway.
Yeah. Well, look, I think the origin story, I mean, it matters, right? And with everything that we do, and like so many, I got my first role in the mortgage business, the glorious mortgage business, and through sales. And so I was a top sales producer, and then eventually that led me into regional management, and so then I was a regional sales manager, and then that led me into leadership. And there was a bridge from going from sales management into leadership. And when I moved into leadership, which was about 10 years ago in the mortgage biz, the company had moved me from Portland, Oregon down to the Bay Area. And I took over the entire operation, all production. And then I was, of course, charged to build that out and run that as if I was the president of my own company on my P&L and all that other stuff. And that's really where I became a leader because I was in charge and I owned not just my destiny, but those around me. And I quickly realized how important that was to me. And then throughout the years, and eventually, we were with Pinnacle Capital then, and that was purchased by a glorious company called Finance of America Mortgage, which was absolutely incredible until the end when they, shut the company down. But through my tenure there, then I was running all production for the Western U.S. Well, when the headwinds showed up, the owners of Finance America and the investors and whatnot said, "Hey, we don't really want to be in the mortgage biz. We think it's going to be pretty bad." This is back in 2022. They weren't wrong, by the way, and so they shut down the mortgage company. Unfortunately, that was also 14 months after we helped take it public. So I found myself in a position of, well, what do I do now? And as you know, Michael, and I don't know, Kathryn, if you know this, but that was also coming off of about a 10-month battle of stage 3 cancer. And I was working the entire time through chemo and radiation, facing cancer. The mortgage industry is melting down around me. The company is showing, signs of, hey, we're not sure we want to be in this anymore, keeping it together. And, if I rewind just a little fraction there, when I finally finished treatment and I was given my bill of health and, okay, I'm good, I'm back, let's go, and I'm ready, and then 6 weeks later, I lost my job. And that was a really, really dark place for me. Now, in reflection, I can identify a couple things, and I'm going to get to your question. What had happened with losing my job there is it put me in a dark place because my identity was so tied into being a leader in the mortgage space. And I felt like I lost my identity. Now, of course, during that, I didn't know that. Like I said, this is in reflection. And through a couple iterations of things, a lot of soul searching, coming out of that, I had to pull back on and realize, what is it that I love in what I do? What has led me throughout my success in the mortgage business over 20 years, sales, management, leadership, and so on. And what I realized was my desire and my ability to help you succeed, but in your design, not just my design. So even in sales, right? Originators, AEs, your whole purpose in life is to help your referral partners, your clients, your team succeed. And if I can help you succeed, that helps me succeed. So I was very clear about that. I had to pull back into that. That's what made me very good in management. That's what helped me get promoted into leadership and then into executive leadership. And when I was in that role running production for the Western US, at the time, what I did was I focused on cultivating leadership around me. Now, I'm a production leader, but my focus wasn't necessarily on production. My focus was on cultivating leadership around me. And it didn't matter your job title. It wasn't just my regionals. I included key branch managers or key originators. It didn't matter. If you showed signs that you want to be a leader, you have the ability to be a leader, you have the desire, the capability, and so on, then I'm going to cultivate that around me. And if I can cultivate leaders around me across the entire Western US, now what I'm doing is, depending on the different market areas, the different impact zones, and so on, I'm going to help you be profitable. I'm going to help you recruit and grow. I'm going to help you retain your branch. I'm going to help you grow more branches. I'm going to help do the things that are necessary. So the result is we're growing production, we're growing branches, we're growing loan officers, but we're growing culture. We're growing internally. Instead of building out, I was building in. And it was understanding that after that was taken away, that and through a lot of signs at the time, people kind of coming out and saying, look, you should do this. And I finally just planted my flag in the ground, said, F it. This is what I'm going to do. April 12th, I put pen to paper, business planning my business. That was just over 2 years ago. And faith plus grit. And that's how I started this business. And with that same sort of magnet to my compass. So that might be a long answer to the question, but I think the story, leads to, it's not just I'm going to go be a coach. It's I'm going to help you succeed on purpose and in your design. I'm just going to apply that in coaching right now. I used to apply that in leadership, and I view myself as a coach. I really view myself as a leader's leader, and that's a little bit, I don't know if that's different or not, but that's just how the lens I look through.
Hey, Craig, first, thanks for being here. It's good to see you again.
Good to see you.
Number two, thanks for sharing your background, because it's great to hear. And I knew some of that, but it's good to put all the pieces together. But a few things that I just want to point out, first for our listeners to make sure they didn't miss, but second, just so that I can dig in a little bit as well, is you kind of had to break down to rebuild, right? And I think so many of us do have our identity in our daily job, whether that be in origination or leadership or whatever that looks like. So how are you pulling your clients now to say, hey, let's figure out what else you are great at and what parts of that? So how are you guiding your own clients to this point based on the lessons you've learned?
Yeah, great question. And I sort of look through the lens on that with that scenario, really around your personal brand, for example. And the way I, work with clients and whatnot, because, and Michael, you and I have had these conversations in the past, I ask everybody, and I'll ask the audience, right? Like, do you have a personal brand? And if I'm speaking on stage, I'll ask, hey, do you have a personal brand? And I'll get a couple of hands. Yeah, I got a personal brand. I got a personal brand. And then a lot of people don't raise their hand. And as we know, or as we're about to discuss here, well, everybody has a personal brand, whether you know it or not, whether you like it or not. It's your reputation. It's what you're leaving behind. It's what people think of you. That's your brand. That's your personal brand. But I use that as a lever to connect. What is it that connects you with your clients? What is it that connects you with your referral partners? What is it that connects you with what you do? I'm trying to dig around and find purpose in there. And not just the obvious, but I really want to know, like, what energizes you? What is it, if you won the lottery and you could do this for free, what parts of your job would you do for free? What is it that plugs you into the wall, not a battery, right? You're renewing energy around it. And so I find that, through different master classes and stuff I do, I'll specifically look for that, but also in the one-on-one in the relationship, I'm pulling that out because look, it might be hard for you to sort of know that without doing some work on that. And sometimes, and Michael, you know this as a coach, we can sort of see it and sometimes kind of grab that and sort of bring that to light. And so I really try to focus on helping people find that connection, because we use the word personal brand a lot in the frame of marketing. No, that's just a connection. We can portray it in marketing, but really what's important there is, because now that I understand really what drives me, nobody can take that away. That is my identity, because I know that's what makes me feel successful, right? It's not the money that we earn, the revenue we bring in. I mean, those are byproducts, but the more we can be connected there, now we're getting up in the morning with energy, right? Look, and I'll leave it like this. This is one of my favorite things, right? Like, we've all heard all the billionaires say, if you do what you love, you never work a day in your life. Well, I'm telling you, it's not that easy. And I guarantee it wasn't that easy for them either, right? Like, we're all in the mortgage business. We're all in the housing industry, any industry. You don't love every day. You just don't. So let's reframe that. What is it in what you do that you love? And when we can get close to that, then it's a little easier to kind of reduce the noise and get closer into, okay, I love doing this part of my job. Great. Now, can we lever that up? Can we reduce the other pieces? And the more we do that, there's a subtlety here, but the more we do that, the more connected we are into what we're doing. Now it's no longer a job title.
Yeah.
Craig, that's a great level of focus. And you're right. We have had that talk around branding. I've even said that when someone isn't clear on their brand, I remind them, don't worry. It's what everyone else says about you when you're not there. And so it reinforces the set that up, which is we all recognize that brand is part of who we are and what we do. But what you really are helping them do is get clarity on, now, how do I focus that? How do I take what already exists and make it more clear for people so they can connect to it and really create the momentum they need in order to do that more often. And that maybe helps them wake up with that energy that you described. That's really clear. I hope our audience is already excited about that potential. So let's take this topic just a little further. Let's say you've introduced this when you're working with a client and that clicks for them. Where do you tend to take them next? Like, once they get clear on the direction you want to go, what's the path that you'd like to show them?
Yeah, I mean, and it depends on, why they're here, right? I mean, a lot of times clients will show up maybe because they're stuck on something, right? Or they're showing up because, they're trying to drive momentum into a certain direction, right? So there's usually a reason. I mean, I get clients that show up also just like, look, just in general, I just know I do better with coaching. I don't know what I need coaching on. I just know I do better working with a coach, which is very true. Cool, all good. And so my job in this, and I'm very good at, and I know, Michael, you are too, about, as we work together, we start, it's not just the words we're saying, and I'm trying to look past the words. We're looking at body language. We're looking at what kind of things light up. And as I kind of ask around, and it's usually pretty quick to find out, are we going down a leadership path? Are we going down a growth path? Are we going down a marketing path? Are we going down, what are we trying to do? Is it personal development? Is it just, I just want to do better? Okay, cool. And so it's not a specific answer. It's really around the insights that we start generating. And as we can generate those insights, we can start grabbing those and just kind of just pull that thread a little bit. And we might pivot, right? I mean, I don't do prescription before diagnosis, right? And so it really just depends. But, like when I'm working with branch managers now, I will say, look, there's 4 things I do tend to dig in on and focus on, because, what I view as makes a great branch manager, for example, is leadership, right? So we really get in areas of leadership: training, retention, communication, vision, strategy, profitability. Okay, whether you're running a P&L or not, we really have to have a profitability mindset. And I love me a P&L. I love me a pro forma. I love tinkering on pro formas. I'm really good at making you money. That's what I've always done throughout my career. I'm really good at making you money. So I focus on profitability and thoughtful profitability. And there's an art and a science when it comes to profitability. Look, the science are, okay, here's my numbers. If I raise this number or lower that number, that yields a certain net result. But the art is seeing through the numbers. And that's where I'm really good at working with, branch managers and leaders so we can see through the numbers. So we have leadership, we have profitability, we have performance. Okay, there's our sales performance, our loan officers, our coaching with loan officers, our training program with loan officers. How are we going to help loan officers be better, do better, feel better in what they do, right? And then finally, growth, right? Recruit, and I hate the word recruiting. I'm going to put recruiting in quotation marks. And there's a difference between growth and recruiting. But we focus on growth, whether it's organic growth, whether that's bringing new growth on, how do we do that effectively and whatnot. So I do tend to look through those 4 pillars with branch managers, but outside of that with clients and inside the mortgage business, outside the mortgage business, we all tend to leave the same breadcrumbs. So, which is just, which trail do we want to go down?
So I was going to ask a question because we've talked a lot about kind of the overview of things, but I want to make sure that we also hit that originator that's on the street. And these are different times in our industry. So is there a couple of little things that you're giving advice to originators saying, hey, here's like 2 things to focus on? Because right now it does feel like we have 100 job titles.
Yeah.
And so what are a few little things that an originator can focus on in their daily disciplines and their daily life to really move that needle right now?
Yeah. So 100%. So I do, like when I do branch coaching, so I created what I call this, my elite playbook, because I try to look for the common threads of what makes people elite in what they do, especially on the originator side. So a couple things for all originators listening. Number one, well, we talked about personal brand. Just get in touch with your personal brand, right? Because that's where you're going to connect that to your audience. Okay. Number 2, I want every originator on this call to write down on a piece of paper, let's just use a round number 10, proactive objectives that moves your business and life forward. I want to bring them out of the subconscious and into the conscious. Write them down. So, for example, marketing. No, let's get more specific. Social media marketing, email marketing, right? Let's get specific. What are the proactive objectives that moves your business and life forward? And now we're going to put that into relationship with your day, meaning Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. What are those 1 to 3 objectives to accomplish on each day that moves your business forward? So now I'm trying to create what I call the habit of success. We want to be consistent there. We want to be habitual. We want to create patterns. And the more we can identify this, bring it to light, and we're going to put it in the calendar, for example. And look, this is as simple as power hour, the power hour concept. And I'll give you another example. Every Friday, one of your objectives might be reaching out, and should be reaching out to, let's say, 5 to 10 realtors and getting in touch with them. Say, okay, are you doing open houses this weekend? I'd love to support you on that. Can I offer you this, complimentary flyer? MBS Highway's got great flyers, Mortgage Coach, all the stuff, right? Whatever you get it from, list reports, I don't care. Use something. Here's a great flyer to support your property and the zip code and all the other things. Hey, and by the way, if you're going to be in your open house, I'd love to stop by and meet you. Great, come on by, right? To pop by. And then on Monday, one of your objectives should be weekend follow-up. Hey, how'd your open houses go? What did you learn? How's that property doing? Anything can support you, et cetera, et cetera. But my point is, I want that anchored in. Every Friday, you're reaching out, and every Monday, you're reaching out. Before the weekend, after the weekend. And that just becomes part of your habit. So I want to help originators be habitual in what they're doing. Now we're creating scale. And then I'll just add this one other piece. Every originator should be looking at diversifying their referral categories, meaning not just realtors. Who else do you want to get referral business for? So we know the obvious are realtors and our database, and I don't think we do enough nurturing our database. But we should also be looking at financial professionals, right? And this isn't rocket science. We've known this, but I think it matters more than ever. We need our financial professionals, our CPAs, financial planners, and so on. Obviously, we know builder business is a big target, right? That's a growth business there. Here's an idea. What if you develop relationships with architects? How many originators are calling on architects? Because the architect is in touch with the consumer as well as the builder, and develop relationships there. So let's diversify our referral categories, because I think that's more important now, more than ever. So I think those are a couple things, there's obviously more that we do, but I think there's a couple things that we can sort of tangibly hold on to.
I love the tactical approach there, Craig. And I do want to go back a little bit, because I think you were drawing a distinction between some of the performance coaching and some of the leadership coaching, and you're drawing some contrast between those. So let's take Kathryn's setup in this question, but let's now look through the camera lens of that management leader, the person you're working with, who's responsible for all of those producers that you were just giving some very tactical advice. How do you get the manager of 2025, whether they're at a branch level or at some organizational level, to really tune in to the role they play and everything you just shared with someone who's responsible for the origination? How do you connect those dots with that leader?
Yeah, and I love it. In fact, even today, so I'm coaching a branch right now. So I'm coaching the branch manager, plus I'm coaching the team as a whole. And so we're doing this in lockstep together. So now it depends. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different branch, different, we have new loan officers, we have veterans, it doesn't matter to me, good, right, wrong, or indifferent. But my point is, we have to take a unique look into our team. Now, I do believe, especially with where this business, it's not where this business is going, it's where this business is at, and it's going to keep going there a whole lot faster. We've got a lower cost to produce. We've got to battle margin compression. We have to adopt technology. We have to do all these different things. That is where this business is going, because the future is happening really fast. I would say the future is happening faster than I've ever experienced since I've been in this biz since 2001. Okay. So I think a common ground is every branch manager should have a training, coaching, support plan in the branch. I don't think we can go feral cats anymore. I think we really need to hone it in. Like I said, and if you caught what I said earlier, instead of building out, I'm just going to recruit more people on board. I don't think that's the right strategy. Let's build inside. Let's build in. Now that does mean we're going to attract growth, but my point is we're going to build into our sales team. And I do think that starts with, you have to have a training program, and I'll help you with that, just like you do, Michael. You have to have, I think, I'm just going to put in quotation marks, power hours, because that's a common language. But you have to be at this meeting, and we're going to go over a script. And like I was talking about earlier, proactive objectives. We're going to do that exercise so everybody knows what their proactive objectives are. I'm not telling you what they are. We're going to have common ground, but people are going to have different objectives. Great, because I want the diversity in my sales force. But we're going to have a couple different stations throughout the week where I want you at this meeting. And let's say it is a power hour. We're going to show up. We're all going to talk about the script we're going to use. We're all going to call out, whether it be, again, realtors or divorce attorneys or financial professionals or whatever. Let's do it together as a team, because it's more fun together as a team. So we talk script. Everyone does their calls. We come back. We debrief. Okay. We all know that. There's nothing new about that. But I don't want this happening by accident. I don't want this random. I don't want this, hey, we did it for like a couple weeks and we didn't really get, the best results, so we gave up. We need to keep going, and we need to do it more often. And we need to make things, and I hate to say this, everybody, but we do need to make some things more mandatory. We have to use this tech, because if it improves efficiency, so we have to identify what it is. But if it improves efficiency, if it improves consistency, and you mentioned Dave Savage's name earlier. I'm a huge proponent of Mortgage Coach, because we know the results that if you use Mortgage Coach, you're going to have less concessions. You're going to have higher conversion. You're going to create a better borrower experience. It's a conduit to be a financial professional. And when you do reach out to your financial professionals, if you're showing them a Mortgage Coach presentation, that's a whole lot better than a rate Rate is transaction. Consultation lives over here in the presentation. Again, whatever tool you use. So I want to make these things, I'm going to use the word again, a little bit more mandatory. Let's find a better word. I get we can't make everybody do everything, but let's keep working towards it. But if we provide the right training, the right platform, consistency, support, now I've got a couple of people using it, and now we're using them as influencers to help other people. Next thing you know, we've got more people using the right tools, right? So that's an example of, but this is not necessarily across the board. Like I have a branch manager I'm working with right now. We're not even there yet. She's got, new loan officers in there. So I'm working on loan officer success optimization. I would say it like that, and so I'm starting to introduce some of these tools, but right now I'm helping them. How do you optimize to be a successful salesperson, whether it's mortgage, real estate, or other?
So Craig, one thing I heard you at least kind of imply was that both branch managers, originators, leadership all have to start to provide value for the people in around them, and different ways to do that, whether that be, hey, here's a tool, use the tool. Hey, we're going to work on training. We're going to work on scripts. So I think that that's kind of a key that I think that for you, that is just coming across, that I keep thinking, oh yeah, that seems like Craig, because you're always providing value. Every time I've hung out with you, you're like, okay, what about this? What about this? So
well, tactical value,
yeah.
right? Like, and so Kathryn, I'm going to ask you a question here, right? And
Okay.
you brought up value, so of course you saw I get excited there, but I don't, So let's talk about value real quick. And now, look, this is a guided question, and it's going to be a trick question, but what is your value proposition? And not to put you totally on the spot, you can go dig, but in general, what is the value proposition that anybody provides?
What is the? Well, I don't know about the, but I would say overall, like for me,
Yeah,
my value proposition is I've been lending in the Yampa Valley for over 20 years. I know this valley and love this valley intimately, and love to help people purchase their piece of this valley in a very consultative way.
I love it. Michael, you want to take a stab at that question?
Well, I only want to highlight something that Kathryn's a little too humble to add to that. And as probably the top producer for most of those years in that role in the Yampa Valley, she's had more opportunity to see every aspect of that real estate transaction. So she has the experience to go with it. It's not just her personal passion. She's truly the most experienced person in her marketplace. So if you want the quality of that experience with that passion, you can't find a better combination than Kathryn Peterson.
I love it.
The coach.
I love it. Well, and I'll tie this down to, again, where my leading question, because with your experience in the Valley, right? And it's not even, and I would say it goes beyond just the experience and the tenure served, but you said something from a consultative approach. So really understanding that your consultative approach with your clients, and I'm going to bet with your referral partners, you're also a consultant and have a consultative approach with your referral partners. What I am hearing you say is really what you're doing is you're helping raise their value. So your value in that consultative approach is you're raising your client's value. You're raising your realtor's value, and your ability to raise their value gives you value. And I can see you as you light up, as you were talking about, and you're smiling, right? And you're talking about the experience and having that approach. And the tenure and the time served just adds more to that, right?
Exactly.
And so, but that's where I was going with that. And I love your value proposition. But for everybody out there, sometimes it's hard to understand. Again, what's my personal brand? What's my value proposition? I'm not going to just, let me ask ChatGPT, right? Like, and that's cool. Do it, that gives you insights. But just answer this question. How do you raise their value? And who's they? Your client's value. How do you raise your referral partner's value? How do you raise your team's value? And now that puts you in, and I don't care what your job title is. If you're an originator, a processor, if you're in the mortgage business, it doesn't matter. I strongly believe that everybody is a leader despite their title. So I'm also helping coach people to look through a leadership lens. So if you are an originator and you can help raise the value of your client by providing a great experience, a consultative approach, multiple options, you're looking at lifetime value with the client. What are your goals? Tell me about your family. What's the purpose of this loan? Not just here's the rate for the 30-year fixed. You're going to raise their value because now you're looking down road. It's not about just getting more loans. It's providing a consultative value approach to them. And of course, we can go down, different rabbit holes with this. But my point is, everybody in your audience, listen, how do you raise their value? And get close to that, because that's gonna open up a lot of what we're talking about here.
Kathryn, I am not the best social media marketer you've ever met, but I think we just found exactly the slogan we're going to weave into this episode of Building Bigger Lives featuring Craig Davis. And I think if we land the plane there, Craig, one of the things that really strikes me as I listen to you speak with passion is you do have capacity at these different levels of an organization where people come to you isn't as important as where you're going to take them, and you see it from all of the angles so that you're able to create a symbiotic relationship with these folks. So your phrase of, we can't work with feral cats any longer, we've really got to bring them to the mill, that resonates with me because I see that's part of your unique value proposition. And I think that's maybe a key takeaway for our listeners is, yes, understanding where you add value might in fact be the simplest way to identify your unique value proposition, because you're going to do that in a unique way, different than how I'll do it, different than how Kathryn will do it. And that's why I love connecting with you and love listening to you. Man, I want to thank you for being on today's episode. There's probably 101 more things that we need to be covering with you. So I hope maybe after our gathering at the HousingWire gathering, we'll have some more. Well, I'll tell you what we will have. We'll have a lot more perspective on where the leadership of the industry is going. And that's going to spark a lot of really great dinner time conversations that we'll get to have. And we'll bring it back to a summer session too. So will you come back and be our follow-up guest?
I'd love to be a guest as often as you want to invite me. I would love to join, and it'll be fun. We could do a little debrief, after that, and we've got other events coming down the pike. And I think, as you guys know too, I run, I'm the chief strategy officer with Sales Mastery, which is going to be October 14th, 17th, down in Dallas, which is, I think, Kathryn, probably, Momentum Builder, which is now Sales Mastery, is I think probably where I saw you last at that event last year. So definitely want to give a big shout out, to that event and Don, Gino, Todd Duncan, and everybody else. So it's going to be the premier housing event of the housing industry. So I'm excited for it.
Well, Kathryn, I think that puts a wrap on us for today. So why don't you bring us home?
Yep. And we'll put a link to that event in the probably the YouTube post, at least, if not also the Instagram post. Thank you so much for joining us today on Building Bigger Lives. We hope you took some great notes and will implement a few things. Let us know what you implement and what you learned from this episode. Please find us on Instagram, YouTube, all of your favorite podcast sites, and let us know what you think. Give us a 5-star, and please share this to your friends and coworkers. Thanks again.